Today we're going to be looking at injustice, helping others, and Jeremiah being lowered into a well. In chapter 38.
Thanks for joining us. Good to see you today.
Luna, would you like to hear some of the Bible? Take that as a yes. I'm going to be reading Jeremiah 38. Shephatiah, son of Matan, Gedaliah, son of Pashur, Jehukal, son of Shelemiah, and Pashur, son of Malchiah, heard that I was telling the people that the Lord had said, "Whoever stays on in the city will die in war or of starvation or disease. But those who go out and surrender to the Babylonians will not be killed. They will at least escape with their lives." I was also telling them that the Lord had said, "I'm going to give the city to the Babylonian army, and so they will capture it." Then the officials went to the king and said, "This man must be put to death. By talking like this, he is making the soldiers in the city lose their courage. And he is doing the same thing to everyone else left in the city. He's not trying to help the people, he only wants to hurt them." King Zedekiah answered, "Very well then, what do you wish with him? I can't do what you wish with him. I can't stop you." So they took me and let me down by ropes into Prince Malchiah's well, which was in the palace courtyard. There was no water in the well, only mud, and I sank down in it. However, Ebed-Melech, the Ethiopian, an eunuch who worked in the royal palace, heard that they had put me in the well. At that time, the king was holding court at the Benjamin Gate. So Ebed-Melech went there and said to the king, "Your Majesty, what these men have done is wrong. They have put Jeremiah in the well, where he is sure to die of starvation, since there is no more food in the city." Then the king ordered Ebed-Melech to take with him 3 men and pull me out of the well before I died. So Ebed-Melech went with the men to the palace storeroom and got some worn out clothing, which he let down to me by ropes. He told me to put the rags under my arms so that the ropes wouldn't hurt me. I did this, and they pulled me up out of the well. After that, I was kept in the courtyard. Did you like that, Luna? Or were you sleeping?
God's story, the prophets. So part of God's story is about the prophets, and it goes like this. Prophets are people who hear from God and share it. We sometimes think of prophets as people who know the future, but really, they know whatever God tells them, which could be anything, because God knows everything. Anyway, nowadays, God speaks to all of us. But before Jesus came and before there was the Bible, God spoke to his family through just a few people. Some of those people were prophets. 16 of God's prophets have books in the Bible named after them. And today, we are talking about them. It starts with Isaiah and ends with Malachi. These guys are a pretty big part of the Old Testament, so let's check out what God said to his family through them. This won't take long because even though they lived in different places and hundreds of years apart, they had basically the same message. Because people have always had the same problem. We disobey God. So the prophets told God's family, "You've sinned, now you're in trouble." Of course, the prophets didn't just say this. They got God's family's attention by doing crazy things to show how bad life can get when we're far from God. Like Isaiah, who walked around in his underwear for 3 years to show what it looks like to lose everything. Or Jeremiah, who hid his belt under a rock until it rotted, then dug it up again so God's family could see what it looks like to be completely destroyed. Seriously, kids, that's in the Bible. And actually, it gets even crazier. Check it out for yourself. See, God is holy, which means he's perfect. He created us to be like him and follow him, but instead, we choose to disobey him, which is sin. Sin has to be punished because if God is perfect, he can't pretend it doesn't matter when we hurt each other or ourselves or his creatures or the earth. The thing is, though, God loves us anyway. He doesn't want his family to be in trouble. So he sent good news through the prophets too. They said, if you stop sinning and follow God instead, he'll have mercy on you. Mercy means not getting punished, even though you deserve it. Problem is, nobody could stop sinning for very long. Well, God had a plan for that too. He told some of the prophets, like Isaiah and Zechariah, that one day he would send someone perfect to earth. Someone who could take the punishment for everybody else's sin. And if our sin was paid for, that would mean we weren't in trouble anymore, which means we could come close to God. If 16 different prophets over hundreds of years all said pretty much the same thing, it must be important, right? Even now, for us. After all, we've sinned too, and we need a rescuer. And since the rescuer already came, we can follow God and choose to accept that Jesus took our punishment, which means it doesn't separate us from God anymore. And we can talk to God, but also hear from him, which means we can prophesy too. And that's the story of the prophets. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Prophets hear from God and share it. God told a whole bunch of them the same thing. Sin separates people from God. Stop sinning and obey. But God's family couldn't stop sinning. So God promised a rescuer. Hundreds of years later, the rescuer came. And now we can be close to God. We can hear from him. And we can share it. And that's a part of God's story.
Then the officials went to the king and said, "This man must be put to death. By talking like this, he is making the soldiers in the city lose their courage, and he is doing the same thing to everyone else left in the city. He is not trying to help the people, he only wants to hurt them." King Zedekiah answered, "Very well then, do what you wish with him. I can't stop you." So they took me and let me down by ropes into Prince Malachiah's well, which was in the palace courtyard. There was no water in the well, only mud, and I sank down in it.
I am sinking down into the mud. I'm really sad.
However, Ebed-Melech the Ethiopian, a eunuch who worked in the royal palace, heard that they had put me in the well. At that time the king was holding court at the Benjamin Gate. So Ebed-Melech went there and said to the king, "Your Majesty, what these men have done is wrong. They have put Jeremiah in the well, and where he is sure to die of starvation, since there is no more food in the city." Then the king ordered Ebed-Melech to take with him 3 men, and to pull me out of the well before I died. So Ebed-Melech went with the men to the palace storeroom and got some worn-out clothing, which he let down to me by ropes. He told me to put the rags under my arms so that the ropes wouldn't hurt me. I did this, and they pulled me up out of the well. After that, I was kept in the courtyard.
like Elijah and Moses because they're like the adventurous parts of people in the Bible. Oh, hello!
Oh, hi there, guys.
Didn't notice you.
Didn't see you there.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, Luna. Oh. Zaki and I just wanted to have a little chat with you about injustice, because that is kind of the theme of what we're looking at today, because Jeremiah was a victim of injustice, and we've looked at the work of Open Doors and how some of our friends from around the world are also victims of injustice. So Zaki, I'm putting him on the spot here, I haven't prepped him. What is injustice? Do you know the answer to that question?
Crimes.
Is it
And like things that aren't right.
okay? Yeah. So crimes and things that aren't right. I think that's a good summary. I think injustice is when people aren't treated fairly, isn't it?
It's the opposite of justice.
It's the opposite of justice. Can you think of any examples, Zaki, either from in your life that you see or things that you've heard of? Can you think of any examples of injustice?
When the people in the police in America are really racist
Okay.
and they do a lot of murdering.
Oh goodness. Okay, so that's something we talk about. We've talked about at home. Is the kind of some of the injustice that we see in police forces or in the kind of authority figures, and that's something that we don't want to dwell on too much here. But there is definitely a sense of injustice for people of different races, isn't there, in some countries, and we've seen a lot of that in America over the last kind of year or so, and that has led to the rise in Black Lives Matter movement in America and in the UK, and we saw big things happening here in Bristol, and that all stemmed from an injustice, people who weren't treated fairly. And so what injustice does Jeremiah suffer in the passage that we are looking at today?
They chuck him into a well because he told them that they should leave their city and go to the Babylonians.
Absolutely. So Jeremiah was a prophet, and he came with a message from God, and he gave that message. He was faithful to what he believed God was telling him to do, and there were people who didn't like that, and so they managed to convince the king that he should be thrown into a well and left there, probably to die.
The king was a bit irresponsible though.
The king didn't really. Yeah, the king could have done more, couldn't he?
Yeah.
But he just
It's
let it happen.
Do what you like. I can't stop you.
He was. And so you have your Bible open to Jeremiah?
No, I'm on Exodus.
Okay, just reading Exodus.
That's what we were discussing. Moses and Elijah.
So what happens is Ebed Melech, who isn't from the same tribe as Jeremiah, he gets some people together and he pulls him out, doesn't he? Pulls him out of the well. So he sees an injustice. He sees something that has gone wrong, something that isn't right, and he acts upon it, and he does something to help Jeremiah.
And the king, of course, lets him.
And the king lets him, absolutely. So, Zaki, what can we do when we see injustice happening in our lives or in the world?
Stop it.
You can try and stop it, can't you? What if you're not in a position to be able to stop it personally at that time?
Tell someone else.
You could tell someone else about it. That's definitely a good thing, isn't it? Make people aware of what's happening. I think spreading awareness when there is injustice is a really important thing, and that's why people have been so upset by things that have been happening over the last couple of years, haven't they? Because people have been really good at kind of getting that message and making it clear when something is happening, and we're in a time at the moment where it's really easy to share information. And so if you've got information about an injustice, one of the most important things is to make sure that you've got the right information. You don't want to share stuff and tell people about stuff that actually isn't true. So if you have some information and you're sure that it's right, then that's a really good idea to tell other people about it and make as many people aware of it as possible. Because the more people that are aware of an injustice, the more likely it is that you can actually do something to stop it.
Should you tell people if you've stopped the injustice, then you tell people?
I think if you're in a position to do something about it, then you can say this was happening and this is what I did to stop it, then that's really great, because that's really encouraging for people as well, isn't it?
But don't be full of yourself.
But don't be full of yourself. It's a good reminder there. Thank you, Zaki. And another thing that we can do as people who know and love Jesus is to pray, isn't it? So we can pray about all of these injustices that are happening around the world. And that's another great thing that's on the Open Doors website is that they have lots and lots of resources for how to pray for people. Countries that you can pray for, individuals that you can pray for. Because even if we're not in a position to do anything in a really practical way for some people, we can definitely spend some time praying for people all around the world. And we can use the Open Doors thing for that, but there's also lots of other resources where you can find out about injustice that's happening around the world. It's not always Christians that are being persecuted. There are people that are persecuted all over the world for all manner of things, from their religion to their colour to their gender, to their class. All of these things are unacceptable, and I think we can really help by praying for them.
Or just maybe for a thing that they did that the person didn't like.
Yeah, sometimes it is literally just they upset someone and they get persecuted.
Or maybe, and the injustice person who did the injustice can be as small as like a school bully or something.
Absolutely, that might be something that you guys see in your schools.
And
Is
you might
injustice in the playground.
You might even witness it.
Not
witness it. Be a victim of it.
That's a really good point, buddy. And if that is the case, then we can pray for you, and we would really encourage you to tell a grown up, so either your mum or your dad or someone at school, if that is happening to you, because that's not right either. You shouldn't be persecuted or bullied at school. So let us know if we can help with that.
But stand up to them first. Want them on the nose.
Don't hit people on the nose. Just tell a grown up
And stand up to them.
Stand up to them if you're able to. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining us in our little chat. We're going to let you go, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.
I'm going to do some, and I'm going to pray. These bubbles are like prayers. Going up to heaven. Or really going down. Go up.
Well done.
That wasn't one. Now I'm going to pray. Dear God, thank you that we are allowed to talk about you. We pray for people that get into trouble because they love you. Please be with them and comfort them. Show us how we can help people. Amen. Bye.
Hi guys, so Zachy and I are just having a little bit of a chat about the persecuted church around the world. Now, Zachy, you were just asking me what persecuted means, weren't you?
What?
Yeah, you just said what, when I told you about it, you said what does persecuted mean?
Yeah, I was.
Did you listen to what I said? What
Yeah.
does persecuted mean?
Means you're going to get arrested for being part of a church.
Exactly. It means you can get arrested or get into serious trouble. Sometimes even worse. Sometimes people are killed for being a part of a church, like we are at Ebby.
That's prosecuted, isn't it?
Well, prosecuted is when you go to court and it becomes a law. Persecuted is where you are just kind of it's made illegal. It's made impossible to do it. People's lives are made really difficult, and sometimes they are arrested and prosecuted, and sometimes executed for believing in God and for going to church. And so there is a great organisation called Open Doors, who are a charity that work all over the world, particularly with the persecuted church family. And on their website, there are some great resources for ways that you can get involved and help to support them. And so we'll put some links up on the Ebby Children at Home page as well. But one of the really simple things that you can do is you can write a letter to someone.
This
And
is paper, by the way.
that's
not
a piece of paper.
Clipboard.
And you
this is a
can
pen.
write a letter
I
and
think
you
it's
can
fine liner.
send it through Open Doors, and they will send it to a member of a persecuted church, and they make sure it gets to them safely, and they can do it. And actually, look, I'm going to ask Zachy. I haven't told him I'm going to do this. I'm going to ask Zachy now to read something from their website, which is a quote from a from someone who gets one of these letters. So can you read this bit for me, Zachy?
These letters encourage me to know that I am not alone, she shares. Anytime I am sad or my heart is heavy, I pick up the letters and start reading and feel comforted. There are times as I feel as if all my pain has disappeared. Indeed, the letters are a healing balm to me. I just want to say thank you to all who wrote these letters to me. May God continue to use you to heal others.
And that was from someone called Martina from Nigeria, where it's really difficult to be a Christian. And so at the moment they've got their current campaigns are in Nigeria, Malaysia, the Middle East, and in Nigeria again. And so any letter you write will go to one of those families. And on the Open Doors website there's a simple kind of guide on how to write a nice letter. But you can just do whatever you want. You can do a drawing, you can write a letter telling someone about your church and about what you believe, and they can get those letters, and it can really encourage them to know that people are praying for them all over the world. So Zachy's going to have a go at writing one of those letters now, and I hope that you guys will join us in doing that. And the reason we're looking at Open Doors, maybe I should have said this at the beginning, is because, what's the passage that we're looking at today, Zachy?
Jeremiah?
Jeremiah, fantastic. And what happens to Jeremiah?
He gets dumped in a whale.
He gets dumped in a well, and he goes to a country and he starts telling people about God, because he has been told by God to do this, and they don't like it, and they persecute him, they throw him into this well. And who helps him? Can you remember the name of the person who helps him?
Ebed-Melech.
Yeah, who is an Ethiopian eunuch. So he is someone from a different tribe to Jeremiah, but he helps him anyway, despite the fact that they're not from the same tribe, from the same family, and actually it's dangerous for him to help him. And so we're thinking about all our friends all over the world who aren't from the same country as us, don't go to Ebby, but they love Jesus and they're getting in trouble because of it. So that's why we want to think about them and think of ways that we can encourage them and to show them some love. So I hope you join us in doing that. Anything to add?
Let's begin.
Excellent. Let's begin. Thanks, guys.
There are lots of ideas how you can change the world. Some people think you should just complain about it. That won't change the world, it'll just make it mad. Some people think you have lots of money, making it rain everywhere you go. Holla for $1. Some people think you have to be really loud and yell a lot. It's like with a bullhorn shouting, "Hey you, yeah you, do it my way right now, you heard?" Other people choose to just make fun of everything. That's dumb, everyone's dumb. It's easier to make fun of stuff, but it's cooler to make stuff. Some people think changing the world can only be done by the smartest person in the world. Just put them in a room, let them figure it out. The solution of world hunger? Food. Wow, that was so amazing. Some people see the bad in the world and they just decide to ignore it. But that won't help anything. Some people think you have to be really famous, super cool. In fact, lots of people think you have to be really powerful to make a difference. Like being mayor, or senator, or president. But the truth is, a title doesn't make you more important. The world is changed by you. It's one person filled with love. And they just have to live it out, so they do something awesome. Then that person is filled with love, and they do something awesome. It just goes on and on and on and on. And the next thing you know, everything's awesome. Some people think it's impossible to change the world.
It's impossible to change the world.
Well, you can see why they could think that. Living in the world with kids who are hungry, people who are homeless, families weren't happy. I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else, man. I do know this, though. Next time you feel overwhelmed or totally alone, remember this. Things don't have to be the way they are. The world is changed by ordinary people. Little people living out big love.
Hello everyone again. Thanks for joining us as we learned about the persecuted Christians, injustice, the prophets, and Ed Malecki helping Jeremiah. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks, guys. I hope you have a good time going back to school, and hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
See ya!